Hello, I'm John Hind, Director of Compass Resolution. And today I've got the pleasure of talking to Lottie Kent. Now, Lottie is a chartered financial planner specializing in finances on relationship breakdown and divorce, working either as a financial neutral for the couple or as a shadow expert for one of the couple. Now, Lottie is an award-winning chartered financial planner, a resolution accredited divorce specialist, and owner of her own company, True Financial Design Limited. True Financial Design Limited specializes in supporting couples to make fully informed financial decisions about their future when they separate. Lottie is on a particular mission to help women going through divorce worried about their finances, ensuring that they get the best help and support they need to feel confident about making decisions and reaching fair financial outcomes with their former partner. So Lottie is definitely someone worth paying attention to. Hi Lottie, it's good to have you with me today.
Hello, John, and thank you very much for that lovely introduction there.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome indeed. So Lottie and I will spend about 30 minutes talking about the financial services and support she provides her clients during each stage of the mediation journey, helping them to reach their own financial agreements in mediation. Our hope is that by the end of this conversation, you'll have a clear understanding of the service, why it's so important, and how to work with Lottie as you go through the mediation process, significantly, we believe, improving your chances of reaching a successful financial outcome together in the most cost-effective way. So I want to start with the kind of pre-mediation stage, Lottie, if that's okay. And can we start by looking at this stage before they get to mediation, when the couple are each preparing themselves to come into their first joint session, and they've been asked by the mediator, by me, if it's I'm mediating, to complete their financial forms. So I've seen them both separately. They're now in the preparation stage, and they're looking to prepare themselves practically, mentally, psychologically, and so on, but their financial forms. What can you do to help them? Or how can you help?
That's a very good place to start right at the beginning. And I think what a lot of what I will say in this section and in other sections as well, a lot of it there is some overlap. But initially, and whether this is helping an individual or whether it's helping them on a joint basis, first of all, it's really, really important from a financial point of view to establish the need. So when we're talking about the need, it's from a capital point of view. So from in order to rehouse or buy the other half out, what amount of money will be needed for that? And things that people don't often think about, buying a new car. Cars don't last forever, and renewing that car. How often do you renew that car? What capital expenditure is needed there? Another one that often people forget is stamp duty on top of, purchasing new property. So addressing and understanding the immediate and future capital needs, but then also from an income point of view, what income is required to maintain standard of living, both now and in the future? And of course, that will vary over time as well. If couples have children, then when the children leave home, we expect the food bill to potentially go down a little bit, or we hope, and other expenses as well. So I think there's different stages in which income needs will vary, and that's something that we can definitely help clients with. And then also it's looking much, much further into the future about income and retirement needs as well. So when we're going through the divorce process, whichever avenue you're going down, it's really important to not just look at the here and now and the next couple, 2, 3, 4, 5 years. We're looking much longer term as well. And then I suppose once we've established that need, in the early stages, it's important to understand what is in the pot, what is in the joint pot. So for example, pensions. Now, I think we end up with a lot of clients coming to us with headaches about pensions. Pensions are complex, and it's really, really, really important that you actually fully understand the type of pensions that you're dealing with. So, for example, there's two main different types of pensions: defined contribution pensions and defined benefit pensions. Defined benefit pensions provide you with a guaranteed income for the rest of your life, which increases normally in line with CPI, and it will start being paid at what the scheme calls the normal retirement age. Now, A defined contribution pension works very, very differently in the sense that the current value is determined by the amount that you put into it, the performance and the charges, and the income you receive from that. There is no level of guarantee with that. The current value almost determines that income that you will receive, and it also is based on kind of interest rates at the time, annuity rates, etc., etc. So there's lots of variables there, and then you're really comparing kind of apples and oranges. And so when people say, oh, I've got a current value or a CETV of my defined benefit pension and it's 250,000, but it's for the local government scheme or the local council pension scheme, and then the other side has got a defined contribution scheme with a current value of 250,000, you are comparing two very, very different things there. And that current value is not a true or a fair value, because public sector schemes for a defined benefit point of view are often undervalued. So it's really important that you fully understand the ins and outs of pensions and how that will affect or how that will be paid in the future, and the fairest way to split those, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so there's kind of two messages I'm hearing at the moment is just is that at this initial stage, this early stage, as couples are thinking about coming into this process of mediation to start to construct a kind of financial solutions for themselves, there's two parts to that. Is one is you're talking about the need to be clear about, you could help them understand their priority needs, what they're kind of needing now, medium term and long term, in terms of a house, in terms of income, and in terms of transport, and so on and so on. So there is beginning to help them clarify for themselves, so they can come into mediation and talk about this, their needs, their priority needs, and so on and so forth. And the other part you're talking about, I think you can really be really helpful. You can really help the clients with, is this understanding. So as I'm asking them to collect, the information, lawyers call them Form Es, I call them financial disclosure booklets, what do you call them? As they're starting to put those together, maybe one or both are working with you on that, but you're helping them understand what is it they're collecting. You're talking about pensions, and you're kind of and you're talking about this. Actually, it's really important for them to understand, especially when it comes to looking at how to, if they are going to look at dividing them, that it's apples and oranges. Defined benefits not the same as defined contributions, i.e. final salary and private, so on and so forth. Apples and pears and so on and so forth. So understanding information and understanding their priority needs early on is, I think, that's where you can help them. Yeah, is that yeah.
100%. I think it's just from a very, rather than going into specific detail, any further with kind of investments or property or anything like that,
Yep.
It's saying, right, this is in the joint pot, this is what we're looking at, this is what needs to go on the relevant form, but also these are the potential complexities that you're going to be faced with as well.
Yeah.
And the complexities, not only just the complexities within a plan, but any tax consequences, anything like that, but also the consequences when splitting them on divorce.
Yeah, so we're preparing them, aren't we, you and I, we're preparing them for what they're going to come up with, what they're going to have to deal with, which is exploring their options, reality testing their options, reality testing the net effect of particular options. If you do that, what about tax? What about the cost of realizing? What about this? What about that? And so on. So we're actually ensuring, and you're working with them specifically, and I'm going to be helping them in mediation, to be prepared with the information, with data, to be able to do that. Because I have so many mediations where couples get to there and they say, we want to discuss this, and I'm saying, well, have you got your capital gains tax calculation? Have you looked at the cost of realizing that? What about the impact? Oh no, we haven't. So it's great to have someone, this is my experience anyway, Lottie, is having someone with your experience and skills working with one or both, preparing them in the way we're talking about, to come in to robustly test out some ideas and options and preferences they have to meet their needs and so on. So that's these are.
And to add to that, if I may, it's knowing the questions to ask.
Yes.
When they're in that mediation as well,
yes.
and having that knowledge to make and to ask those questions, because as we all say, we don't know what we don't know. Nobody does. And it's really important that in order to make the right decision for yourself, for the future, for your children, you have that knowledge to be able to have the confidence to make those decisions for your
knowledge
future,
and confidence. Yeah, I think it's the balance between having the confidence and competence. I know loads of people have loads of confidence, but don't know much about what they're talking about. And actually, people know lots know what they're talking about, but not a lot of confidence. Actually, it's helping people prepare themselves. And often, don't you find one of them, maybe the husband or maybe the wife, I don't know, it has loads of information. They've been dealing with the finances, they have the businesses, they have the pensions, and the other person hasn't had anything to do with them. So there's a big power imbalance. And so, I know we haven't talked about power imbalances, but this giving them the information, knowledge, and confidence is rebalancing that power, so they come in more confident and capable to have the conversations they need to have to be able to set it themselves.
Yeah, and I very much agree with that. And a lot of our work is empowering especially the weaker party often, and giving them the tools, the confidence, the knowledge they need to enter into a mediation environment or even negotiations, so they're actually on the same level playing field, rather than there being this imbalance.
And my experience is the other person actually, whether it's husband or wife, who wants that, wants the person who is, if you say, weaker or doesn't have so much knowledge or experience, wants them to be able to make decisions with them. Otherwise, it can be incredibly frustrating, isn't it? If I'm wanting to make a decision, reach a decision with you, and you're saying, well, I don't know, and I can't, and I don't feel confident enough. How frustrating! So I want you to be enabled, empowered, and motivated, and so on. No, this is great. So we're talking about, just to remind our viewers, we're talking about the preparation period at the moment. The couple are preparing, gathering data. They're working with you to, one or both of them are working with you to gather information, understand the information, preparing themselves to look at the potential implications of exploring certain options, tax, and so on. And actually, by the way, I'm guessing you are also used to working with other experts. So if, I don't know, if an accountant or a forensic, and so you can liaise, you can be like a broker or a liaison person with, yeah, is that something that
Yeah, and as I always say to clients, if you've got one very proficient expert in your divorce journey, they are able to pull in the other relevant experts that you need along the way, as and when you need them, and act as that, I suppose, that the heart of it, really, because then they're able to say, right, well, actually, at this point, we need a capital gains tax report, and for example, and we're able to get that at the right point, and then the clients. But sometimes clients don't know that they need this information. Again, we don't know what we don't know. But as much as I'm unable to provide a tax, I'm not a tax expert, I'm not qualified as a tax expert, but I know that we need that, and I'm able to liaise directly with that tax expert, for example. But there's other, mortgage, often mortgage capacity reports are needed. We're telling our clients, right, that's one of the first things we need to get. And it just means that you're actually, rather than going into mediation kind of not really knowing what to expect, you're going in with everything you need. So actually in the mediation, you're making the most of that time that you're spending there.
Yeah, and so it kind of in a process structured kind of way that you are they're in mediation and they're problem solving, but to get to the point where they can effectively problem solve together, they need to be working outside the process, in between. I remember we're still before the first session, but before and in between. We'll come to the in between session in a minute, with the likes of you, maybe as a kind of at the center, at the hub of a bike, kind of maybe helping work with the accountant, the pension expert, the earning capacity expert, the borrowing capacity expert, the mortgage, and so on, so that they are then ready with the right information, with the right reports, and so on, to come into mediation either with you or just on their own, depending how they feel about that, and to come into the session to start to work together, to kind of collectively reason, to focus on communication together, and to use their kind of the stuff they prepared to come into mediation with, to start using it in mediation. Okay, I've got that, and I think hopefully the viewers have got some kind of sense of where we are in the kind of process, how it's working. So I'm now in the session. We've got into this mediation session, and as I know you know this, but the viewers out there watching, if you're in mediation with me, for example, a mediation with a mediator, the whole process is confidential, and my job is to get the couple focusing on what it is they're trying to achieve, what's important to them, and to work with the information, the resources, the data they've got, and to start to construct ideas and solutions and scenarios that work for them. Now, can you think of any scenarios where it could be really useful for you, bearing in mind what we've talked about, where it might be useful for you to come into the session with one or both? I mean, talking about maybe power imbalances or any other scenarios you can think of where you might be useful to come into the session with the couple.
100%. I think it's invaluable, to be honest, being in the session in whichever capacity. There are a few reasons for it, because the thing is during what actually when you're in a session, I think there's often a lot of stalling points, as in, oh no, we need to go away and find this out, oh no, we need to go away and find that out. Whereas if you've got the relevant expert there that say, even if it's just dialing in for 10 minutes and answering those you're able to do live problem solving, because you've got the answers at your fingertips. And whether that be sitting in and being a financial partner for one individual to bring them onto the level playing field, or whether it's sitting there as a financial neutral and doing, whether it be modeling different scenarios, which I think we're going to potentially come on to a little bit later.
We will. Yep, absolutely.
Well, exciting. It just means that you're able to get answers immediately, and actually it moves the mediation process, negotiations through. It's so much smoother. It's really so much smoother. And there might be questions that come up, oh, what happens if I do this with this pension? Well, we can answer that question there and then and do some live modeling, and whether that be acting as a neutral for the two parties, or whether we're just acting on behalf of one as support and a guide to them, to be their financial knowledge, if that makes sense, and their financial voice to a certain extent. Then it's so valuable. But I think the most valuable thing I would say during the session is actually doing some live modeling, because actually, rather than wondering all those questions, well, what if I did this, or what if I downsized at this age, or the spreadsheets can only go so far. And actually, by being able to visualize what that will look like, we call it our visualize your future process, because it's exactly as it says on the tin. You can see exactly what things will look like in the future for both different parties, and especially when working things out like maintenance, for example, that will vary maybe over time. But what would it look like if one party received £1,000 worth of maintenance a month, for example? Then we can really answer those questions and know what that would look like, if that makes sense.
Okay, so to help our viewers at this point, do you have any particular case you have in mind? Obviously no names and so on, but something where you can really help perhaps the couple going through separation who might be watching this to understand what conceptually what you're talking about, by attaching it to some context, to a case, to a kind of study. So in real terms. Yeah.
Do you mean the modeling?
Modeling. Let's just go on to modeling.
Yeah.
Let's talk about modeling, because we're now in mediation. You're in mediation, and you've prepared yourself to work with the couple. Let's say to work the couple, and you're going to help them, and I'll be there watching and facilitating and so on, but helping them to model out, to forecast, to visualize, to reality test, to what do you do with them? What is modeling? What is modeling?
Would you like me to give you a very quick demonstration of this?
Oh yes, please. Yes.
Would that be helpful?
That
right, I'm
be.
just going to share my screen. Bear with me 2 seconds.
Let me allow you to share it.
You will allow me.
Yeah, and let me just allow you to share. Yes, you can. You are now allowed to share.
Right, I will keep this very, very brief, and I am just going to look this way, so please accept my apologies for that, because they're on my screen. So this, as I say, is a visualize your future process. Now this, I was actually acting on behalf of a lady in this instance. Names have all been stripped out, but she was going through mediation and really wanted somebody to help her understand her need, and then also model potential settlement scenarios over the top of that. So as I say, I'll keep this very, very brief. But first of all, we plot a client's timeline, okay? So her age is along the bottom here. We've got the start of the plan. She needs to purchase a new car, and that will recur every 5 years. She's not currently working, but she will be able to access her pension at 57. Then we've got her outgoings reducing when the children leave home when she's 59, and then passing at 90. Now, we can change any of these dates and it will automatically update all the figures within the system.
Got it.
Now, from here, we've then got her fact find, if you like. So we've got herself and the 2 children. Now, this is a very stripped out version of the plan because it's purely looking at her needs at this stage. So this is not the family home. This is what she wants to purchase. So she's going to purchase at wants to purchase at 1.25 million. She has a very small pension of her own, as this isn't very unlikely to be shared. So that's been kept in this plan. And from when she used to work. We've done a state pension forecast with her, which is another thing we're able to help clients with. And she will get full state pension. Her expenses at present are, and after divorce, are 80,000 a year. They will reduce to about 65 a year when the children leave home. Moving costs she will have immediately when she moves house of 15,000. She'll purchase a car at 50,000 every 5 years starting next year. And stamp duty on 1.25 million is 68,750. So also, we can change absolutely any of these. However, these are the plan settings. So this takes into consideration absolutely everything. So savings growth, investment growth, fees, charges, taxation, inflation, the lot. So then if we have a look at what this looks like, the black line across the top is her total need in any given year. We can see these bumps here. That's when the car has been purchased. We can see there's a very clear need here, a capital need in order to rehouse. She's got an income need because she has no income of her own. And she's also got an income and retirement need. So this blue here is her state pension. Now, when we start to build this up, this is looking at what potential settlement scenarios would look like over the top. So if I were to illustrate to you here, if she were to receive bear with me 2 seconds, if she was to receive 3.25 million as a capital lump sum, what would that look like from the joint pot? So if we have a look here, we can see, and I appreciate this case is the size that it is. However, whether the figures, there's 5 more noughts added to this or 5 noughts taken off, the principle applies exactly the same across the board.
Understand.
So, so we've got her age along the bottom here again. Anything in blue is any money coming in, and the details will illustrate exactly where that money is coming from. But we can see now that this has turned from red to blue. So it's now no longer any shortfall. She's able to purchase that property. And she's then able to maintain her standard of living up until 64, because that money has then gone into any surplus from that first year, has gone into savings, and it's maintaining her standard of living. However, we still have a shortfall in retirement. So then the next layer up was how to share the pension side of things. And this is what was sort of suggested as a potential proposal during mediation. And it was suggested that if she were to receive a very straightforward external pension sharing order of 650,000, then what would that look like? And we can see here that has moved her shortfall to age 76. But there is still a shortfall. So what does this mean to this lady? So in a nutshell, we can illustrate to her what lump sum she would need in order to remove all shortfall. And often this is quite a good way of kind of managing expectation to a certain extent, because actually if there's not that additional amount in the joint pot, then we have to look at other ways of removing that shortfall. So, and that figure is there. The other way we could look at it is say, how much money would you have in retirement or be able to spend in retirement? Now, bearing in mind her outgoings, she believes will be about 65,000. She's got 55. So there's about 10,500 short there. So is she happy with this? If not, then it's a case of going back into mediation saying, well, actually, we need to look at something else to address this shortfall. Sure. But what this does, and it can answer all of these questions, whether we model some downsizing for the client if she wants to downsize in the future and show her all of this, or jointly, we can do one plan for Mr., one plan for Mr., one plan, whatever combination we're looking at. It's a case of looking at it and illustrating it and giving clients that confidence and the knowledge that they need to say, actually, I'm comfortable with this decision, and actually I'm able to move forwards with this. So it just gives them that the confidence to make informed decisions, basically.
Perfect. Bring me back on if you would, and that's really handy. I'll tell you what would be useful. I think we set up a separate, just a separate kind of chat, really, maybe 20 minutes, half an hour, just slowing down and going, because I mean, I got all that, but I'm guessing people who, someone maybe watching with not a lot of financial confidences on, might struggle. So I think it'd be useful actually to break that down and go through that in stages within the context of mediation in a separate meeting. But for now, actually, I completely get it. My kind of feedback from that would be, I can see how useful it would be for the couple and or one of them to be working with that tool with you, because you're the expert in that tool. There's you with all your expertise. You've got that tool. It's fantastic, and that's going to allow them to really reality test with all the data they've collected. We've talked about slotting in as that tool, and then giving them a real sense of taking away the because some people go, I have no idea what divorce or retirement will look like, or don't know how much I'll have, or that really kind of gives it some traction. It gives it some reality. It enables them to really have a robust conversation. So I can absolutely see that's really useful. And how it integrates into mediation, well, that can take many different forms, really. I mean, I can see some mediations where you are doing an awful lot of the kind of the preparation, collection, and so on, and you come into mediation, and I'm primarily actually facilitating the conversation between husband and wife, and also the team problem solving. So I'm basically the kind of team facilitator, whereas and you're doing that kind of work. And sometimes you might be working with one of them just outside the mediation. So it can take many different forms. This is what we're talking about, the idea of mediation teaming. So I can definitely see how useful that tool can be in mediation. I'm now conscious of time a little bit, because we have promised the viewers not too long, but I know we've got so much to talk about already, which is why I'm suggesting we perhaps have another session on the forecasting tool. Okay, so they've now got their agreement. They've got their financial agreement. They've reached their agreement in mediation, what set of proposals, as we like to call them in mediation, and they've got that kind of encapsulated in a court order. Actually, as a mediator, I'm doing more court orders at the moment, but where lawyers aren't so involved. So they've got their court order. What part could you play, or do you play, in supporting them, perhaps with the post-agreement, the implementation stage, with the pension transfers, with the internal external transfers, and with the, I don't know, the share transfer, all the aspects of implementing their agreement? Are you useful there?
Yeah, 100%. And a couple you've already touched on, but one thing I will say, which is probably the most important, is making a plan for your future. So living life individually and starting your new life, as I always say to clients, is going to be different. And it's really, really important that you say, right, here's my starting point. This is what I've got. These are my goals. These are my plans for the future. And creating that plan. Go through the visualize your future process again, and really make sure if you're not able to meet your goals, then what are the shortfalls? What are the consequences of those shortfalls? How are you going to address them? And then, of course, there's the actual, I suppose, administration side of the divorce, i.e. sometimes there are pension sharing orders that need to be transferred. You have options of internal, external. I won't go into the complexities of those now, but what I will say is make sure you reach out for guidance if you are unsure, because it's so important that you make the right decision. But the thing is, I think is so, and also the implementation of moving investments and things like that. Just make sure things are structured and set up how they should be to meet your objectives in the future. And the other final thing I will say is, whatever you do, if you're trying to potentially derive an income, don't just let the cash start to deplete, because I've seen it in times before where if a client had come and actually invested £500,000, for example, 20 years ago, they would still get 20,000 a year if it was just achieving 5% a year, and they'd still have £500,000 today. But actually, they've just depleted the pot year on year, and inflation's had a little go at it as well. And actually, there's now nothing left. So making sure that you seek, if you're not happy to do it yourself, seek advice, make sure you have a structured plan to meet your goals, your objectives for your future.
And you can help them do that. So to some extent, you're in a role as a financial coach. You're guiding, helping them. The way I look at coaching, because I also do divorce coaching, is you're their thinking partner. You're their financial thinking partner, helping them plan, think about things. What if that happens? And actually helping them to exercise maybe a bit of self-discipline about, because we all know how easy it is to use capital.
Yes.
And so on. That's great. Okay, now finally, if I know you're on our website. I mean, by the way, guys, anyone watching, what we're talking about here, of course, just to remind us all, is the idea of couples working in mediation as part of a team. Because, and I'm talking to Lottie, who may well form up an integral part of that financial team. And so, and you can look on the Compass website and find Lottie's details and find the details of all the other experts. And we've mentioned some of them: mortgage experts, earning capacity experts, pension experts, so on. However, if I'm working with a couple and one of them, and I say to one of them, go and have a chat with Lottie, how might they contact you? Just talk to me about that a little bit. Just what's the best way?
The best way to get in touch is either drop me an email, give the office a call, and what we will do is we will schedule an initial call. And actually, if it is a couple, we tend to do it via Teams to have that initial chat, and basically just see whether we're the right fit for one another. It's horses for courses when it comes to this. And if you're going to have somebody as your financial partner, whether it be individual or jointly, you need to get on with that person.
Yeah.
So it's really, really important that there is that bond there.
What about this? As I'm listening to you, what about this idea? You, me, and the couple come on to an initial Zoom just to do some introductions, scope the work, talk about the work, really, really early stage. And so you can say, oh, that's really good, that's really interesting. I think I can help with this, this, and this. Would that be useful?
100%, and I really, really recommend that. So actually, what can be very, very useful is just somebody like myself or my equivalent parachuting in for potentially 10 minutes, and during that initial mediation, and just saying, right, this is what I see has been a little bit complex. Think we should have a look at this. Even if it's just saying, go and get that expert mortgage capacity report, even if that's all we add, then it's just very, very helpful. And then it's a case of saying, well, actually, we could help you with this area, or actually, maybe you don't need us, you just need to get the other relevant experts. So parachuting in for 10 minutes into that initial joint meeting can be very, very helpful.
Or I've recently done, what I've recently done is I've had the first session. We've gathered, they've done their financial booklets. We've gathered a certain amount of information. I've established their priority needs, and then I have a meeting and I establish a kind of joint meeting with the likes of you or pension experts and so on. And then we say, okay, we can then share all the information. You say, well, have you thought about this? We'll collect this. And then you then become a part of the team. So I think it's choosing the right time, isn't it? Where the most effective time. And I say the mediators out there, by the way, lots of mediators out there. Think about constantly when you're working with this couple. Think about what support do they need financially. Think about who might help them, and at what point it would be most useful to have that expert in, and maybe speak to the expert first. So if it's a mediator, speak to you. When would it be useful to you to come into my case? You might say now, or maybe after the next session, or whatever. Okay. Final question.
And I think just to add to that, every mediator works slightly differently as well.
Yeah.
And every financial expert will do too. And I think that's quite important. So it's just adapting to the best way to suit all needs, basically.
Absolutely. And again, that's just to plug this model I'm trying to. It's the idea of mediation teaming. It is working with an established team. If you're working with the same people or very similar people over a period of time, you get to understand how they work, and it then becomes what we're trying to achieve: effective, efficient, cost-effective, integrated, cohesive, blah. All things go into a good team. So that's what we're trying to do here. That's what we're here.
100%.
And final one, if you were being instructed, number one, I guess my questions are these: do you deal with the client? Can you deal with the clients directly? Do they sign up to your terms? I mean, how are you instructed for mediation purposes? How would you prefer to be instructed?
So So I suppose the thing again, we are adaptable. However, if clients came to us and they wanted us to sit in on mediation, go through the whole mediation process with them, we would ask that every member of the party or the team really signed up to our terms of business,
Yep.
just so we're all like confidentiality, everything stays
Yep.
in those four walls, and it's
Yep.
and that's the financial neutral approach, if that
Yeah,
makes sense.
you'd sign the mediation agreement, by the way. So if you're coming into mediation, we have this. I mean, as you know from resolution, we have this kind of what they call hybrid
Yes.
or team mediation process. And in terms of instruction, is your contract with the clients directly? I'm guessing because
Yes.
I'm not.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, got it. I think we've covered an awful lot. I mean, whoever's watching it, I mean, that's partly why I break it down into minutes and somewhere they can find certain information you can see on the website. So anyway, as I bring this to an end, Lottie, and anyone watching this, I've got to say thank you very much for your time. We have packed a lot into this, but I'm hoping that the people watching this will have got a really good sense and a clear picture of what you can do to support each of them or both of them working in mediation, how you can support them, what you can do, how to instruct you, and so on. And they've got a sense of how important it is actually to use someone like you in most financial cases, I would say, that I'm dealing with anyway. So thank you very much for your time.
And thank you very much for having me.
No, it's been a pleasure. It's been interesting. It's been fun. Thank you very much. And I'll no doubt see you soon, Lottie. I'm going to bring it to an end now. And as we smile at the camera and phase out. Bye for now. Bye.
Bye.